Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for March 24th, 2016. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, and here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now, what you'll notice is that in overnight and pre-market trading, we've seen the prices drop following yesterday's pullback. And so what you see here is actually price pulling back below recent multi-day support, finally breaching that support around 2025 and continuing lower, currently trading 2016s. I mentioned before that we've had a steady push higher here, but typically speaking, we've seen modest pullbacks along the way. These modest pullbacks have been opportunities to buy and defend for another continuation higher. So you can see a couple of day pullback here, 1-2 day pullback here, same thing kind of here. We've seen some very small rotations lower. So on this rotation downward into 2009, perhaps as low as 2000, this could be an area where bulls will look to defend for a continuation higher. Failure to hold 2000 will open up the floodgates for a return back toward 1941 and the HVN at 1912.5. So this is going to be an important area to watch here upon a retest, but we could see further downside short-term movement over the next day or two, and then we could see price be bought, defended, and then slingshotted to the upside into 2061 to 2077. But of course, failure to hold above 2000 will break that idea. If we take a look at the intraday time frame for the ES, you can see how much downtrending price behavior there's been so far. Basically, price has pushed back below 2024 half, an important level there, and then continued onward to the 100% expansion target of the key range. This is what we were looking for before. We're watching 2031s up to 2044s. In pre-market yesterday, we mentioned that 2044s were being defended, and that could open up a move back toward 2031s. I mentioned if the support down here cannot hold, then you'd likely see a continuation into 24s and 18s, and so far we've seen that complete here. So a very nice move into its target. I would say any return to 2030 to 2031 could be an area where bears will look to continue to defend for another round of weakness ahead. So while short-term weakness could be seen today, any pullback could offer an opportunity for bears to reload after the recent decline. So again, we could be looking at further downtrending behavior. We have ETH VWAP at 2022. A retest of that area could offer a further selling opportunity for the primary downside target on the day, which is 2011 half. All right, let's take a look at crude oil. Here's crude oil. We were right on top of this yesterday in the trading room, and then I talked about it again in after hours in the PivotBoss closing report. And basically, this 41.28 is composite VPOC here. We've seen it shift higher from 34.25 up to 40.08, from 40.08 up to 41.50s, then down to 41.28. And what happened here was price came into that level from below and was immediately rejected. Upon being rejected, we saw the initial weakness start to turn out yesterday morning. Talked about that initial weakness right there could be the early indication that we're likely headed back toward the previous HVN below. So this is going to be very important. If the market is rejecting these prices as value, then the implication would be that price needs to either trade to previous value, 34.25, or create new value in a downward price discovery phase. Obviously, we have a major LVN here at 37.65. That's a significant LVN between two significant distributions. So we have a double distribution type of range that's developed. That makes this LVN extremely important. So price could drop into this LVN, and we could see bulls defend rejection and return it back to acceptance and back to rejection as this profile continues to develop. So right now, bulls really don't have a great leg to stand on until this 37.65 is reached. That could be an area here where bulls look to defend to push back to 41.28. I will say after taking that area offered, the next retest likely will also be defended by bears for a continuation lower. So right now, a couple of ideas. Bulls want to defend down here. Bears want to defend a retest of the level. And we'll see how price plays out from there. Now, if we look at the intraday time frame, you can see how steady and continuous this downtrend has been. Price is attempting to hold above the 50% day expansion level, holding above 38.85 short term opens up rotation back to value and the mid, which is about 39.25 to 39.30. Failure to hold above 38.85 opens up a continuation into the next downside PB pivot, which is 38.44. And of course, we have ADR targets at 38.68 and 38.31. So further downside trending behavior should be seen here. Failure to hold, basically holding back above that 38.85 opens up a bounce opportunity, at least in the near term. Okay, let's take a look at gold. We talked about gold being in a rejection zone before. Right here, 1272, 1263.90. We talked about this area being rejected before. We looked for weakness to here. We got it. We talked about it coming back into this area again and finding weakness, and we looked for a move back to this zone again, and we got it. Not only that, price closed below the 1227.70 for the first time in a while. And closing below the midpoint of that range could open up a continuation back toward the bottom of the range, something we haven't seen in a while, not since the bottom of that range has been formed. So overall, we've seen price fail to see acceptance or new highs out of the range. That implies at least a test at the opposite end. If price has taken this area offered, which is composite VPOC, again very similar to the ES and crude oil, that thing would imply a move to a lower HVN. So I'm going to be watching 1233.30 very closely and taking it offered here. Any retest, if a retest is defended, that could be a clear indication that we're headed to the next HVN below, which is 1121s. This is still early, so we'll keep an eye on it. But right now, obviously, the rejections on highs implies at least some more price discovery in the lower distribution of this price range. Looking at the NQ, what you'll notice here is continued trending behavior to the upside. However, we've pulled back, finally pulling back to the bottom of the weekly pivot range right here, which is the midpoint of the previous week's range. Typically speaking, that's an area to defend for another squeeze, but we've been watching 43.55 as the key pivot right now. That's the pivot to watch. Minor LVN on the profile. Price was resistance, went bid through it, so coming back into it could offer an opportunity for bulls to defend and squeeze. Failure to hold above 43.55 opens up a continuation back across the prior range. Looking at the intraday time frame, lastly, you can see a continued downtrending market here in the NQ. Price pushed below the previous week's low, the previous session's low rather, at 43.83, and any bounce into that zone could offer an opportunity for bears to redefend for another continuation lower, with downside targets still ahead. The 75% is 43.52, so there's still some downside possibility ahead. Additionally, a 100% of range target would be 43.37, so there's clearly extra downside to run to, those targets to reach, but it all depends on the ability to hold below the previous low. Pushing back above the previous low opens up a move back toward 5-day VPOC at 44.03.5 with a likely test back toward recent resistance at 44.12. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.